I'm going to be a sales rep, then I'm going to be the best sales rep, then I'm going to be a client exec, and then I'm going to manage a team, and then I'm going to be a VP, and then I'm going to run the show. It exists, but I don't know that it should for everyone.
Welcome to the Midgame Mindset. Join us as we dive into the pivotal moments that shape today's top sales and marketing leaders, RevOps innovators, and entrepreneurs. This is where grit meets growth and the game changes for good. If you find value in this conversation, be sure to share it with another growth leader who would enjoy it. And now, let's get to the show. Welcome to the Midgame Mindset. I'm your host, Rich Bishop, and today's guest is a good friend of mine from the Outlier Project, Lyndsay Dowd. Lyndsay, thank you for joining.
Oh, Rich, I have loved doing this. It's been a long time coming. I'm always happy to be with you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you again for being here. Now, for those of you that don't know, Lyndsay is a speaker and author. She's been a guest lecturer at Harvard. She spent 23 years leading sales teams at IBM. Now she's the globally known podcaster for her podcast, Heartbeat for Hire. And Lyndsay, those are just a couple of the highlights. Why don't you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more?
Sure. So like you said, I got my start in sales. I spent 23 years at IBM leading big sales teams, and I came from a really big blue legacy. My family put in 105 years at Big Blue. So I grew up in that culture. I understood that culture. I saw some really beautiful stuff, and I saw some pretty crappy stuff too. And at the end of 23 years, a company sought me out and said, "Would you come lead a sales team for us?" And I was ready for a change. So I packed up my Big Blue legacy and off I went. And any reasonable executive knows it takes at least 6 months for a new executive to find the bathroom. Well, that's not how it went for me. And after 6 short months, they fired me. And anyone that knows me says, "You don't get fired. What the hell? Like that, how does that happen?" And it was deeply personal, very painful. And I felt so much shame and really thought nobody was ever going to work with me again. And I was gutted. So for a month, I couldn't talk about it. And I asked myself three questions. What am I really good at? What do I love to do? And how can I help people the most? And I knew how to build modern leaders, and I knew how to create irresistible culture that drives results. So I started my company, Heartbeat for Hire, which sounds kind of cool, but when I tell you that my parents were not entrepreneurs, they were like, "No, no, no. You get a paycheck. You get a 401k. You security." They thought I was going to be out on the streets tin cupping it, and were definitely not super supportive. They wanted to see me win, but they were like, we don't know anything about this life." So it was really scary to do this. But I bet on myself. And as you said, I started my podcast. I wrote a couple of books. And today I work with C-suites. I coach leaders. I coach teams. I do some fractional work. I teach people how to tell their story. A lot of people can't do that. I do executive LinkedIn workshops. I keynote. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm up to now.
Now, we usually like to start off with what we call the mid-game moment. We've found that growth leaders of all kinds end up going through, whether it's in their career or in trying to grow their companies, that there's this moment of time where they're faced with a challenge and they have to draw on experiences, whether it be from their personal lives, from mentors, books that they've read, to shift their mindset. And that helps them to kind of get past that and then get
Yeah.
into new levels of success. So, as I describe that, is there a mid-game moment that comes to mind for you?
I have a couple. I mean, obviously the one I just talked about, because talk about mindset shift. I had to get myself out of this like tragic funk of like, I am persona non grata to no, I've accomplished great things and I actually have a lot to add to this world. And it takes a lot of courage and a lot of gumption to have that self-belief to go after it and to say, I'm a force to be reckoned with and I'm going to make a difference. So that was one. But I had a number of opportunities that showed up in my career. And one of the things, and this is a practice I love to teach leaders to do, and we had this at IBM, where you could go and have informational interviews with executives outside of your reporting chain. And that did a couple of cool things. Number one, it introduced you to someone you wouldn't normally get to know. It gave you a chance to peacock and say, like, these are all the things I've done, and this is like how I move through the world. But it also gave you exposure to a part of the business you didn't understand. And when they were hiring, you were a person that wasn't on their radar. So I got at least 5 jobs from that approach with IBM, and 3 of those were first of a kind businesses for IBM. So I really got to do some very cool, very innovative, never been done before kind of stuff. And it was as a result of A, knowing how to tell my story, B, being really open, really interested, really curious, and not afraid to try new things. So I got really comfortable being uncomfortable. That's never changed. And if you ever come from tech, that's change is constant. So you just kind of get used to it. But that is such a wonderful practice for leaders to think about. It's such a wonderful practice to participate in. And it takes a pretty secure leader to say to your people on your team, yeah, I want you to go and talk to these people. And I worked for leaders that were very insecure and others who were like, girl, you've been doing this job for 2.5 years. I know this is kind of when you get itchy. Yes, I support you. I want to see you win. The ones who were really insecure that were like, if you leave, then I have no one to do this job. Okay, fine. If you're going to make me stay, what's my productivity going to look like? And that's the lesson.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that. It's been 2.5 years. We know you're going to get itchy.
Yeah.
What's coming up, right? Like
Yeah.
it's interesting because you have a long family history
Right.
of time at IBM. So walk us through a little bit of what that looked like.
Yeah.
What was that moment like of leaving through being let go by the other company? And it sounds like if it was every 2.5 years or so, I totally
Mhm.
understand that, right? Like you had that entrepreneurial spirit. So
Yeah.
how did that coincide with
Well,
long family history there?
yeah, I don't think I'm alone in that 2.5, 3.5 year kind of arc. I think a lot of people, your first few months, you're just trying to find the bathroom. You're trying to figure out who are your allies, who are your friends, how does this person lead, how do I want to respond? And then you're a year in and you figured it out and you're like humming along. Then you get to like expert level by year 2, year 2.5, you're teaching everybody, and ideally you're making good money, but you're like, I learned everything I'm going to learn in this role. I'm ready for something new. So I don't think that's so different than anybody else. But what I will say, and I'll take you back to being a kid growing up in the big blue culture, I was really fortunate. My dad worked in New York City, and so I would go into 590 Madison as a wee little kid, and he was selling typewriters back then. So this is like way, 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 way old. But he told me once this story. This is really cool. He brought me in. He said, I want you to meet my secretaries. And they had the same name. They were like Carol and Carol or Barbara and Barbara. And I don't really remember what the name was, but I was about 6. And he said, I'm going to take you in. I'm going to introduce you to them, but I want you to know they're blind. And I was like, oh, well, whatever. I mean, what do I know? I'm 6. I don't care. That's fine. It's big deal. So we walk in and they go, hi, Lindsay. And I look at my dad and I'm like, you said they were blind. And they go, we're not deaf. And I'm like, oh, but the reason I bring up this story was because diversity was such the norm. Seeing differently abled people, seeing people of all different backgrounds, this is just how it was. And I thought that's what business looked like. I thought that's how everybody worked. I didn't realize how unique and special that was. And lucky for me, IBM really did maintain that culture, even when I was there. And I came in through Lotus. But if you ask any old Lotus person, we acquired IBM, not the other way around. And we were wild. We were like, beer carts on Fridays and dreadlocks and flip-flops, which was so different than the culture that my father knew. And I remember telling him, we're going casual. And he's like, never gonna happen. I said, oh, it's happening, dude. It's happening. If you come to Cambridge in a suit, good luck. So, anyway, the whole part about me leaving IBM, that took a lot of guts. But I was leaving for a really big job. It was going to be more growth. It was going to be new opportunity. There were people I knew at the company. So it seemed like a safe leap. The challenge that I ended up facing was I worked for a leader who had zero EQ, and she knew it. And she even said to me once, she said, you have really strong EQ. And she goes, and I don't. I said, I'm not going to disagree with you there. Um, and she wanted me to be a micromanager, and I refused. So my team loved me, and I'm still in touch with them today. And they were like, "What can we do to get her off your back? How can we help you? We love the way you lead." And they would do anything for me, but it wasn't enough. But that shove out of the nest was exactly what I needed to be where I am now.
You had that entrepreneurial spirit all the way. And it sounds like things may have been that way a little bit at Lotus as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, always, always. I called my teams Mavericks and Hustlers. I wanted them to think differently. I was always the weird one, the one who's like, I think there's another way of doing this. Like, let's try this. I was never afraid to like, I don't have all the answers. I'm not the smartest person in the room. What do you have? How do you do this? Let's try something new. And I think that's just a really healthy way to work and lead and, be a productive human.
I've heard from a lot of entrepreneurs that they were pushed out of the nest. That also is my story as well, right? My
Yeah.
my role was eliminated along with, unfortunately, a lot of
Ugh.
other people at the time. And it was an opportunity to jump out into consulting at the
Mhm.
time. I did kind of need that push, although I had always wanted to do that.
Mhm.
What was that like for you? And did you immediately kind of seize on, yes, all right, now I can go do my own thing? Or was there a bit of a process to get there?
Oh, I didn't plan on being an entrepreneur. I didn't think I'd ever be an author. I didn't know. First of all, I didn't even listen to podcasts. I think the only one I ever listened to was like a true crime one. So all this stuff was kind of sent my way, whether it was cosmically or through, mentors or advisors. And I just kind of I stayed open. I embraced it. And it took me longer than it should have to hire some coaches and to recognize, even though I did all of these first of a kind businesses for IBM, I had the safety of being backed by a big company. So there was money, there was people to book my travel, there was people to help me with taxes, there were, all of that existed. And then when you become an entrepreneur and you're like, oh, crap. I got to think about all this stuff I never had to do before, and I'm really not good at it. So you learn really quickly what you love and what you don't love. There's lots of reasons for questioning, am I making the right choices with my tech stack? Am I hiring someone that's going to be a waste of money? We've all had those bad hires, which sucks because it's your money. And when you throw yourself into this world of that's so different than everything you knew, and your parents can't help you, and the people you grew up with are like, I don't know what she's doing. I don't even know how to talk about it. You find your people, like our outlier friends, who not only have your back, but remind you who you are and say you belong in every room and I want to help you get there. What can I do? And building that personal board of advisors was a really important thing. Growing my network, building my brand, those were all things I really didn't do at IBM. My network was my company. And at one point, we had 400,000 employees. I had a great big network. But anytime somebody outside of IBM or outside of a client reached out to me on LinkedIn, I was like, I don't know them. What a dummy. My network would be so huge if I didn't do that. So, yeah, I learned a lot about that.
Yeah, for sure. You ended up board of advisors, I think is a great term. We all need that group
Yes.
of people around us to encourage us to help us through this. Now, and that's not just for entrepreneurs either, right? That's
No,
for,
everyone should have that.
yeah, when you're leading an organization, even at a CRO, CEO level,
Mhm.
you need that community of other people that are in a similar spot. And too often people, I think, keep their head down
Mhm.
and try to stay so busy that
Well, there's
they
that
don't have time
fear
to
that
step
you
back,
don't,
right?
there's the fear that you don't know what you're doing. And newsflash, nobody does. So you have to surround yourself with people who aren't afraid to tell you about the mistakes they made, or, hey, you might try it this way. This really worked well for me. And having that humility to know when you're out of your depth, but seeking out people that are doing it well, who you admire, serves you so well.
Now, I'd love to take that and look at how you built up your teams? I know that
Mm,
that was a big part of you jumping out to create Heartbeat for Hire and
yeah.
really some of the central kind of principles around building teams and building a culture. What
Yeah.
experiences did you have within IBM or others
Mhm.
that kind of set that up for you, and what does that look like now?
Yeah, I mean, leadership was a really natural thing for me from a kid all the way through. And I was always the loudest person. I was always the one who was like the cheerleader, cheering everybody up, like, let's get involved, let's get excited, let's do this together. That was always kind of my general vibe. So leadership was a natural thing for me to gravitate to. Um, and at IBM, I had terrible leaders, people who were not inspiring, who I was often the only woman on all male teams, very often, especially in sales and in tech. And my inspiration would never come from someone saying, oh, the play on the 30-yard line last night, that's the reason we're selling. Oh my God, yawn, eyes rolled so far back in my head, I could barely get them back. But when I had those initial leaders that really did it differently, I was like, wait a minute, this is how it's supposed to be. Oh, this is what I've been waiting for. And then I was like, I was insatiable. I wanted more of that. I wanted to demonstrate more of that. I wanted to give more of that, be a part of that. And I had one leader who I adored. She promoted me twice, and the first time she promoted me, she's like, "So how do you want to run the business?" And I was like, me? You want to know? Really? You care? Of course I care. You've been in the trenches. You know this. Tell me what would make a difference. Oh my God, Rich. I was so excited. I turned back to my team and I'm like, you guys, we have an opportunity to do things differently. What are some of the things that we want to incorporate into the way we're running this business? And when I tell you we did weird stuff, but really successful stuff. And when you have a leader who says, I believe in you, I trust you, I've got your back, people will take risks. They'll do things they've never done before. And I got to build those teams. I got to be a part of those teams. And that leader who promoted me twice, her culture was so impeccable, and her leaders would have done anything for her. We crushed our number every quarter for like 3 years in a row. It was impressive, impressive time. But it was because we had collaboration, we had camaraderie, we had a ton of trust, and we had the space to do our jobs. And that was a lesson that I would never forget. So when she left, of course I cried. I was like, "Ugh, I'll be lost without you. You know, you've been my advocate. You've been the one who's been saying, I need to be in these rooms. I need bigger jobs, more money, all of that stuff." And you can get lost in big corporate culture. So to have those people that look out for you that way is so important. And then when you become an entrepreneur, you're no longer part of that machine. So you have to find those people who believe in you just because you're you, not because you work together, because you don't. So you build the rapport like you and I have. And when we're talking, oh my God, you need to meet my friend Rich. He's the perfect guy for this. And you want people to be talking about you when you're not in the room, hopefully in a good way.
Yeah, for sure. And to find managers or mentors like that is hard, right?
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people here that are listening or watching this that have said, well, maybe I've had one in my career, and if that's the
Yeah.
case, I'm lucky, right?
Yep.
If I've had more than one, then I'm blessed, right? That is
Mhm.
just so rare. So as you went through that, really kind of opening up your eyes for the first
Yeah.
time to what that leadership style is like. What was that transition like for you, having never had that before, to now instantly you're passing that down to your team as well?
Yeah, I think becoming really open on LinkedIn was the path I took. And I think for anyone in the business space, no matter where you are, whether you're in, funerals or you're in tech sales or you're in medical sales or you're an accountant, whatever it is, finding those voices that resonate with you and engaging with them. So the best tip I'll give everybody is if you see somebody making a post and it really connects with you, write something. This is how you grow. And if you say something really intelligent, all these people see that comment and they're like, that Rich, he's really smart. I want to be connected to Rich. And you build rapport. And if it's someone you really admire, like Samantha McKenna, who's a dear friend of mine, I didn't know Sam. I just started engaging on her stuff. We went back and forth. She loved my content. We became friends. She came on the show twice, and I participate in all of her leadership stuff. We've referred each other business, but I didn't know her. The woman has over 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I am like so honored that we're friends. But that didn't come because someone said, you work for her. I didn't. I had to build rapport with her, and I've built it with her whole team. So it's yours for the taking. You just have to reach out and grab it and stay curious. And the other thing I'll say, celebrate people, lift them up. When you see they've done something good, talk about it, share it. That always looks good on you, whether you're just a solopreneur, you're leading a team of people, or you're part of a big organization. Whenever you lift people up, that is always a great look.
Definitely. There's an aspect of this which I think you're hitting on here, which is taking ownership of this, right? Whenever you're young in your career, yes, maybe you need a mentor to kind of set the stage, right? And it sounds like you had that mentor to turn around and say, hey, how do you want to do this? And
Right.
that gave you the opportunity to kind of step into yourself and take ownership there.
Yeah.
Um, there unfortunately is, I think, a bit of a epidemic with people not taking ownership and
For
passing the
sure.
buck, right?
Oh,
And
sure.
passing the blame here. It's important to get that, I think, within these organizations and to have some of those mentors that allow for you to take that ownership. But ultimately, you've got to take it and run with it yourself. And having the people around you to encourage you helps along the way.
I think so. I think community plays a really big part in it too. And, you and I are part of the Outlier Project, which we deeply love. But we're surrounded by people who choose to live extraordinary lives. These people, we're not afraid of trying new things. We're not afraid of bringing people into the rooms with us who we have faith and trust in, and um, surround yourself with the people who get you. And, that wasn't going to be my best friends. That certainly wasn't going to be my parents. And they still kind of look at me like, I don't really know what you do, but you sure are busy. So whatever. But finding those people that really stick up for you and remind you of your power, that is a piece I didn't discover until I was well into my entrepreneurial journey. And had I done that sooner, I think I would have grown faster and I would have surrounded myself with other people that were doing it really well. You and I are exposed to some of the best entrepreneurs in the business all the time. So we get to ask them incredible questions. They get to share so much of their wisdom with us. And it's never one of those situations where we feel like dummies asking them. We're inspired by these people and we get to learn from them. So that's really special. And I think people don't really tell you to be part of a community. You hear things like Chief. Well, Chief is very expensive. It's great if your company pays for it. But if you're an entrepreneur, you're paying for it yourself. So you want to make sure that it works. And if you're going to join a community, participate. Don't just pay and then don't show up, because what's the point in that?
Yeah, you get out what you put into it, right?
100%.
Which means that it requires you to put into it, but you'll get the benefits afterward. And
Exactly right.
in many ways, I think I bring it back to like fraternities and sororities when you're in
Yeah.
college, right? It's building that network of people around you that, I mean, even to this day, I'm doing business with some of my fraternity brothers that I
Yeah.
went to school with 25 plus years ago, right? So
Yeah.
it's great to see how those communities, even outside of the college world and the professional world, it builds business, it builds
Oh,
character, it
yeah.
builds community for one another, and it's important.
I couldn't agree more. I think I mean, we have kids the same age, so we're all, going through this college journey together. And, whether the school is heavy Greek life or not, you have to decide, is this the community I want to be a part of, but I think it's a really good idea for young people. My nephew, I'm watching him right now, and there's fraternity brothers that are doing extremely well that are looking for interns. He got himself an internship. He has proven himself, and these banking places in Manhattan are like, you have a job with us forever, Colby. Anytime you want to work with us, anytime you want a recommendation, we've got you. Well, that is pretty great for being in college and getting that kind of endorsement. And that came through his fraternity. So community is phenomenal. And like you said at the top, I've guest lectured at Harvard. I've got a billboard in Times Square. These are all from the relationships that you and I get to build in Outlier.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, I want to take that community concept back to the workplace for a minute
Sure.
because you, I think, in many ways built a community even among your sales team,
Yes. Yes.
right? And so there was a moment in time I think we had mentioned last time we talked that you brought the team together and they didn't know
Yes.
how to share and open up. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I love this story. So, I was managing a brand. It was totally the island of misfit toys. I mean, as far as I could tell, I was probably like 6 or 8 acquisitions that were all kind of thrown at me, and I'm like, oh my God, these people don't know each other. They don't care about each other. They have no reason to be curious about each other, and they don't get why they're together. And so I was like, no, we're always going to be better together. So how can I get them engaged and interested and understanding each other? And so I built a storytelling program. And the storytelling program had some rules. Um, Everybody had to tell a story about what it is they sell, and they couldn't use acronyms and they couldn't use tech jargon, and they had to tell the story like they were telling my retired school teacher mother. And that was really hard for a lot of people because, it's real easy. IBM's a freaking acronym. So it's really easy for them to be like, oh, well, spout out all these initials to things and assume that people know. And so I said, no, we're going to do it real human, really, really simple. And I want everybody to understand it. And so we started this program, and the first 2 stories went, and all of a sudden I can see all these light bulbs going on. And people are like, that's what that's for? Oh, my client was asking me about that. I didn't even know we had a solution for that. I need to make an intro. Or wait, you have my client and you're already in there. Can we talk about how this can work together? So all of a sudden, we're creating some awareness, we're creating some connection, we're creating some curiosity. And the stories got better and better and better. And people were helping each other with their stories, which I also love to see. But then it got so good that we opened up the call to external to business partners and to all of the other sales reps that were selling this stuff that didn't know what it was. And the calls started getting really big, like 500 people at a time. And I had business partners reaching out to me saying, I am changing my entire strategy based on what I just heard. This is what I've been looking for. I didn't even know you had this. Thank you for doing these calls. And so it was so much more than just this little team project I had created. It became a life of its own. Meanwhile, my peers are going, I don't know what the hell Dowd is doing. That is weird. I've never seen that before, but I think it's working because we were crushing it. And because we had built this vibe of sharing and connection and interest in each other, our clients could see that. And one thing I just want to remind people, I had almost every client I worked with, and these are some really big clients. How do you like it over there, Linz? Are they treating you well? How's your boss? They're asking. So if they're going to say, I'm fine, but my job is crappy, or I hate my manager, or no, they're not treating me well, are you hiring? Like, you need to be aware of that. And my teams could say, oh no, we're having a great time. I'm killing it. I'm crushing it. I'm really connected to my team. I feel like I belong. It's good. So that was a cool, cool moment to build that, watch it grow, and watch it continue after I left. So
Yeah, that I've been through that transition a couple of times in my career as well with some sales teams. And once the light bulbs start going off, that's such a powerful moment where they go, wait a second, okay, I know somebody who knows this person. Let me make that
Yeah,
connection, right? You're just kind of, and in a sense, it's similar to what we were talking about in the more broad sense of community, of connecting people together. But within these sales teams, and listen, nobody is more competitive than a salesperson, right?
so true.
The successful salespeople are all extremely competitive. They want to do well. They want to hit their numbers. And so sometimes that's a hard shift to
Yes.
say, you know what, let me open up my book of business, or let me, and here's the one that comes in a lot is I'm
Mhm.
going to put my deal at risk by introducing somebody else to it. No way in hell, I'm not going to do it.
Oh
So
God. Yeah.
how
I
did you
mean,
get past some of that?
so Rich, I was a client exec. I had one client. It was Ernst and Young, and I had a $150 million quota. And the other people that were client execs like me, I watched a lot of them be total gatekeepers. And so they were like, you don't get to call on my people. I will decide who gets to call on my people. Okay, I have a $150 million quota. I cannot do this by myself. And there was no way I was going to get there. I needed my sellers to be selling all over the place. I just said, hey, teach me what it is you sell. So when I'm at the top and I'm having these meetings and I'm talking about what we're doing, I can articulately represent you and I can evangelize you. I want you to go do what you're doing, but help me help you.
Mhm.
And gosh, these reps, they could have worked on many accounts, but they chose to work with me because I was going to help them make money. I was going to help them get exposure. I was going to help them get in the door. And, the ones that are gatekeeping, I don't know how they did. I mean, some got lucky. But the way that I led those teams, I think people really appreciated it and they were willing to try new stuff. They were willing to make good intros and be a part of a team. So I had that same kind of dynamic over and over and over again through a lot of the teams I worked with and getting people to see each other, to connect with each other, and being that person to make those bridges. Like, hey, Rich, I know you're a runner. Did you know that Betsy's a runner too? No, I didn't. What do you do? Oh, I like distance. Really? So do I. What do you do? Do you do the weighted vest? What? And all of a sudden you're talking, you're connected. Let's follow each other on Insta. And that's goodness. That's gold.
Mhm.
That's building connections and friendships. And that goes beyond the competitive stuff. You can still be competitive as hell. I was competitive as hell, but I was also competitive to get all of those people to work with me. I wanted them to be like, dude, Lindsay's way more fun. It's way more lucrative to work with her than it is to work with so and so. And by the way, she gets invited on all these international trips. So if you play our cards right, then we get to go too. So yeah, it was fun. I had to create the environment that was irresistible.
It's it. President's Club. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's an interesting shift of, I think, focus, what you're describing there, right? Because there's the competitive, I'm in it for myself,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the competitive, I'm in it for my team, and I want
Yeah,
my team to win. And I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit myself so that the team in a broader sense can win. That tends to feed on itself and create this
100%.
virtuous flywheel,
Yeah.
right? Whereas if you're doing it all yourself, you're the one that's pumping the entire time and having to keep that wheel going, right?
Oh yeah, you're going to waste a ton of energy trying to do it all alone. If you can get people to help you carry the load, it's a lot lighter of a load. But their success was my success. If they sold something, I felt that retired that quota, and that was a big number. So, I needed people to want to be engaged. I needed people to want to get on an airplane with me. I needed people to, think differently and say, hey, I have this relationship with this person over there, or my boyfriend is a person, an executive over there. If I introduce you, can you take him to lunch? I'm like, yeah, of course. And so you get creative, you think differently, but you're leveraging people differently. And the most important thing in all of these teams was I earned trust. I wasn't just a yapping lady with, oh, I got this big number. Help me retire this number. No, like these people, we got to know each other. I got to understand what made them tick, what made them want to fight, what made them want to engage more, and getting to know them on a personal level served me really well because I could talk about those personal things with my client and introduce those commonalities. That's all goodness. And oh, if you're listening and you are a leader and you are not checking in with your people, let's have a chat because that is part of your job. It's part of your responsibility, and making sure you know how your people are and how you can be the best leader for them is really, really important.
Yeah. The best acronym I've ever heard is GAS. You've got to have gas. You've got to give a shit.
Hmm.
Right?
Hell
So
yeah.
you really need to understand how your people tick. And
That's right.
honestly, it comes down to caring. Do you care
Yes.
about them or not? And one
Yeah.
of the things that I think is a big issue that needs to be addressed is the tenure of a chief revenue officer in general, right? Or an executive VP of sales, right? The average tenure is about 18 months,
Yeah. I was gonna say
right?
18 months, 2 years. Yeah.
18 months to 2 years. It's there are a lot of leaders that are in that position that are really just looking for their next gig, or
Yeah.
they just want to get to this exit
Well,
and then they want to
it's a
move on,
teeth
right?
cutting ground. It's a teeth cutting exercise, right? So you leave your company, you go be a VP of sales somewhere, and then you get promoted as a CRO, and then you have that C title, and that carries way more weight than it did if you didn't have it. You can make more money. So yeah, there's for sure a method to that. Now, that being said, I come from the school of we don't promote the top performers to people leader roles unless they love people. So, can I tell a story?
Oh yeah, please do.
Okay. So, I had a rep. This rep, she was phenomenal. She was making $1 million commission checks, not once, not twice, but like three different times. And she was very good at what she did. However, she stomped on everyone along the way, and everyone hated to work with her. And I was her boss. And so, I was new to her and I pulled her aside and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm tired of fielding these calls. You may be really good at what you do, but you cannot treat people like this. You need them to write your contracts, do your legal, you need them to process your orders. And right now, everyone's calling me saying they won't do it. They'll do it for me, but they won't do it for you. So I'm going to ask you to have some self-reflection and be a hell of a lot kinder than you have been because I'm not taking these calls anymore." And she was like, "No one's ever said this to me." And I said, "Well, then you've never had a leader who cares. So that's not cool." Well, let me tell you what happened next. So she's a baller sales rep. She starts softening. She starts engaging better. And she started trusting me way more because I was straight with her. She ends up getting this call from a guy who tells her that your resume is stale. You've been doing this for 10 years. So you really should do a different job. You really should go into leadership. And she tells me this, and I'm like, no, hell no. You are not a people leader, nor should you ever be a people leader. You don't like people. I'm lucky you like me. So, no. And that guy, has he made $1 million commission check? Absolutely, he has not. So keep doing what you're doing because you're in the right place. So, this whole idea of growth means climb the ladder, that is not true. If you are an excellent individual contributor, there is nothing wrong with continuing to be an individual contributor. And if you don't like people, please, please, please do not go into leadership. That is not the only path. So, this whole corporate mindset of like, I'm going to be a sales rep, then I'm going to be the best sales rep, then I'm going to be a client exec, and then I'm going to manage a team, and then I'm going to be a VP, and then I'm going to run the show. It exists, but I don't know that it should for everyone.
It's really rare to find that person that has all of those things, right? Which is why there
Yeah.
are so few leaders,
Yeah.
right? When you compare them to the number of reps that are out
Yes.
there, because it really is a very different skill set that needs to be managed and nurtured. And you're right, some people just don't have it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like
No.
that's perfectly okay to continue pulling in $1 million commission checks because you're just that good at what you do.
Mean, is that a bad thing? I think in everyone's book, that's a good thing. So, I mean, I would so much rather her stay where she is and be much better than she was with the humans she had to rely on. But yeah, I think that foolhardy career path of let's promote the top performers is so tired.
Absolutely. Now, Lindsay, as we get ready to wrap up, first of all, thank you so much. This has been great to dive into these topics. I know you've got kids getting ready to get off into college right about the same age as mine. One of the things that's always on my mind when I talk to growth leaders, especially those with children, is what the lessons you've learned over the years that you want to make sure you instill in your kids as they get ready to jump out on their own. Is there one that stands out for you?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot, and I end up talking to a lot of kids fresh out of college. And it's part of it being where our kids are in their age. You're just exposed to that age group more. And the biggest piece of advice that I love to give is have a side hustle, which is so
Mhm.
different than how we were brought up because we had to sign contracts that said there was no moonlighting. That was what they called it back
Right.
then. You couldn't do other things. And now it's table stakes. And the reason I say this is it's part of building your brand. And there is no such thing as career security anymore. There isn't. So having something you can always fall back on, having something that is just kind of simmering in the background. You're doing a little bit here, a little bit there. It's not Herculean. It's not taking up all your time. It's easy for you. That's a good thing. And a lot of young kids fresh out of college, tech and video and social media is like wired into their brains. It's so easy for them. They can do it so quickly. They do it well. That's just an easy place to start and help fossils like me who, no matter how hard I try, I'm like, where's that thing again? How do I find, is it a reel? Is it a story? I don't know. Having someone who can do that really quickly and produce great work for you, that will serve them well. So I love teaching that, and they kind of start thinking about themselves differently. And part of their brand is this skill set. And they can still do their other job. But when that company says, I didn't realize you have all this video editing skills, like we could really use that on the team. We'd love to kind of do more of that on LinkedIn. You want to lead point on that? Like, cool, let them shine. So I really do believe there's thousands and thousands of things you could do as a side hustle, but have that and make it yours. And the last thing I'll just say on this is your accomplishments, your accolades, those are facts. Those are not feelings. So own them. No one can ever take them away from you. And get really good at talking about them because that's what's going to serve you. That's what's going to get you in the room. That's what's going to get you in front of the people that you really need to meet.
That's great advice. Great advice. Now, how can people watch Heartbeat for Hire? What's the best way? Tell us a little bit about that, and then how can people get in touch with you if they want to follow you?
Sure. Yeah. So Heartbeat for Hire is on YouTube and wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And very soon it's turning into a TV show. So it will be on Roku and Amazon and all of the fast networks like Tubi and Freevee and Pluto. There's a lot of them. And so that's happening. So you can just look for Heartbeat for Hire and you'll find it. There's 160 some odd episodes out now, and they are stories from incredible humans, Olympian CEOs, Hollywood producers, Beyonce's dad, scientists, Grammy Award winners, James Beard Award winners, Emmy winners, like really incredible humans who've done really hard shit. And they share their stories of resilience. And I put my lens on leadership and culture. So that's out there. Otherwise, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Insta, Facebook, TikTok. It's all Lyndsay Dowd, H4H.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay, so much for joining.
You are so welcome, buddy.
Thanks for joining us on the Midgame Mindset. If today's episode sparked a new idea or helped shift your perspective, share it with someone who's ready to grow. Subscribe, leave a review, and keep playing the game. With the right mindset, the best moves are still ahead. Until next time, keep changing the game.